Christine, 1983. Our story begins back in 1950, inside a bustling car factory where workers are putting the finishing touches on a fresh batch of vehicles. Among them sits one particular car, a stunning red beauty that stands out from the rest. A mechanic is bent over its engine, running a routine check, when without warning the hood slams shut on its own, crushing down on his arm and leaving him badly injured. He's rushed off to get medical help immediately. Not long after, a second mechanic climbs inside to continue inspecting the car. As he leans back, ash from his cigar drops onto the seat. Hours tick by, the factory winds down for the day, and the workers begin heading home one by one. But just as the supervisor is about to leave, he notices something odd. The headlights on that same red car are still glowing. He walks over and pulls the door open, and to his horror, the lifeless body of the cigar-smoking mechanic tumbles out from inside. Fast forward 28 years, we meet a teenager named Dennis, driving over to pick up his friend Arnie for their very first day back at school. Arnie is the polar opposite of Dennis, quiet, bookish, and painfully well-behaved. Despite their differences, the two have grown into close friends over time. Once they arrive at school, they head to their lockers to grab their textbooks, and that's when they spot a new girl named Lee, whose looks are enough to leave practically every boy in the hallway completely smitten. Later that afternoon, as Dennis and Arnie are walking home, Arnie suddenly freezes when he notices a car parked outside a house nearby. He tells Dennis to pull over right away. When they get closer, they realize it's a classic red automobile, the very same car we saw rolling off the factory line at the start of this story. Except now, decades later, it's little more than a rusted-out wreck. None of that matters to Arnie, though. The moment he lays eyes on it, he's completely and instantly obsessed. Just then, the car's owner, a man named George, steps outside and explains that the car is called Christine, and that it belonged to his brother, who had passed away only a few weeks earlier. George is eager to get rid of it as fast as possible, so he offers to sell it for a mere $50. Dennis tries to talk some sense into Arnie, asking why on earth he'd waste money on such a beat-up old wreck when he could easily find something better. But Arnie doesn't think twice. He hands over the cash and buys the car on the spot. That evening, when Arnie breaks the news to his parents, his mother is furious and scolds him harshly. Arnie refuses to back down, reminding her that he paid for it with his own savings. Still, his mother makes it clear that the car is not welcome anywhere near their house. So Arnie and Dennis tow Christine over to a nearby garage where they meet the owner, a grouchy old-timer named Will. Despite his gruff personality, Will agrees to let Arnie keep the car parked there. On the drive over, Dennis had asked Arnie what on earth possessed him to buy such a junker, and Arnie's answer was strange. He said he hadn't chosen the car. The car had chosen him the next day at lunch. Dennis waits around for Arnie, but when his friend never shows up, he goes looking for him. He finds Arnie being harassed by a school bully named Buddy. Dennis tries to step in, but Buddy knocks Arnie's lunch tray to the ground and shoves him down on top of it, breaking his glasses in the process and then grinding them under his boot for good measure. As Buddy laughs at Arnie's expense, Dennis seizes the moment and lunges at him, only to find himself surrounded by Buddy's entire crew. Fortunately, a teacher rushes over and breaks up the brawl before it gets worse. Arnie speaks up and reveals that Buddy had actually threatened him with a knife. And sure enough, when the teacher searches Buddy's pockets, the knife turns up. Buddy and his friends are marched straight to the principal's office, and Buddy ends up getting expelled from school entirely. Weeks go by, and Arnie throws himself into restoring Christine, spending nearly every waking hour under her hood. Impressed by his dedication, Will offers him a part-time job helping out around the garage, with the deal being that Arnie can use spare parts for his own car in return. Arnie happily agrees and dives even deeper into the restoration. But somewhere along the way, without even realizing it, his feelings for that car cross the line from passion into something far more consuming. One evening, Dennis stops by to check on his friend, since it had been a while since they'd last hung out. He's stunned by how much Arnie has changed. Gone are the glasses, replaced by a sharp new wardrobe and a confident, almost rebellious swagger. Arnie barely stops to talk before heading off to the garage to keep working. His mother tries to get him to slow down, but he brushes right past her. She later confides in Dennis that she's deeply worried about her son in this car, especially after learning a disturbing detail. The vehicle's previous owner had died of suffocation while sitting inside it. Curious and concerned, Dennis pays a visit to George, who shares the full story behind his late brother. When his brother first bought Christine, he became completely consumed by the car, so much so that his own wife and daughter both lost their lives inside it as well. After the brother's death, the car somehow found its own way to the garage, almost as if it had a will of its own. As Dennis reaches out to try the door handle, the radio suddenly blares to life on its own, and a spooked Dennis takes off running. The following morning, Dennis is out on the football field, mentally preparing for an important play, when he spots Arnie arriving at the stadium. Christine looks flawless now, fully restored, leaving Buddy and his friends staring in disbelief. Lee climbs out of the passenger seat and plants a kiss on Arnie right there in front of everyone. A flicker of jealousy crosses Dennis's mind, distracting him just enough that an opposing player manages to shove him and steal the ball. Dennis hits the ground hard, knocked out cold, suffering a serious injury in the fall. Several days pass before Dennis finally wakes up in a hospital bed, his leg and neck both in casts. Arnie comes to visit, and it's in this moment that Dennis truly registers just how quickly his friend has been transforming. Barely a month ago, Arnie was a timid, obedient kid who never dared cross his parents. Now here he is, a completely different person. Arnie doesn't linger long before saying his goodbyes and heading out. That evening, he takes Lee to the movies, and afterward the two of them start kissing inside the car. But just as things begin heating up, Lee abruptly pulls away and climbs out of the vehicle. When Arnie follows her outside, she tells him he seems to love that car more than he loves her. Arnie finds the comment bizarre, but he manages to coax her back inside anyway. Suddenly, the windshield starts malfunctioning, and Arnie steps outside to take a look. Left alone in the car, Lee starts eating a snack when the radio switches on by itself, and a blinding light floods out from the dashboard. She suddenly feels like she's choking, gasping desperately for air. Arnie rushes to help her, but discovers the doors have locked from the inside. He frantically tries prying them open from the outside with no luck. Lee is on the verge of losing consciousness when, at the very last second, she manages to force the door open herself. A bystander nearby quickly pulls her free. Enraged, Arnie lunges at the man, not realizing he had simply been helping dislodge the food caught in Lee's throat. Once things settle down, Arnie drives Lee home, but she bolts inside the moment she's out of the car and tells him she wants nothing more to do with him. Arnie tries to apologize, but Lee is convinced the car deliberately tried to kill her. She's grown certain that Christine is jealous of her, insisting that something disastrous happens every single time the two of them are together inside that car. Hearing all this, Arnie assumes Lee is simply shaken up and not thinking clearly, so he tells her they'll talk again the next day. Back inside Christine, Arnie finds the engine won't start. He speaks softly to the car, telling her that whatever happened with Lee changes nothing. His love for Christine will never waver. The instant he turns the key again, the engine roars to life. He drives straight to the garage, leaves Christine parked there and heads home. But shortly after he leaves, Buddy and his gang sneak into the garage armed with an assortment of weapons and proceed to demolish the car completely. The next day, Arnie manages to smooth things over with Lee, and the two head to the garage so he can retrieve his wallet from the car. But the moment he sees Christine reduced to a mangled wreck, he's devastated. When Lee asks who could have done such a thing, Arnie suddenly snaps and screams at her for no reason, telling her to just leave him alone. Later he tells his parents what happened, and they try to comfort him by offering to buy him a brand new car. This only makes Arnie angrier, because he knows full well that his parents despise Christine just as much as Lee does. He even blames his own parents for what happened to the car, insisting that if they had simply let him keep it at home, none of this would have happened. As he continues hurling insults at them and storms toward his room, his father grabs him and demands he apologize to his mother. Arnie keeps lashing out, and his father ends up striking him. Arnie fights back before storming out of the house entirely. He heads straight for Christine, determined to rebuild her piece by piece all over again. But what he witnesses next leaves him stunned. The car is repairing itself right before his eyes, almost like magic. Overjoyed, Arnie asks the car just what exactly she's capable of, watching in amazement as she restores herself to pristine condition within moments. Later that same night, we find a character named Moochie, one of Buddy's fellow troublemakers, robbing a truck out in the middle of the road. Suddenly, he hears the unmistakable rumble of a car engine approaching. Moving closer to investigate, he's shocked to discover it's Christine, looking brand new, parked right in front of him. Assuming Arnie must be behind the wheel and has figured out that he helped Buddy trash the car, Moochie starts begging for forgiveness. Without warning, the headlights snap on and the car comes charging at him. Moochie sprints for his life and ducks into a nearby alley, hoping the car will give up the chase. It doesn't. Christine follows relentlessly until Moochie stumbles into an old abandoned warehouse, but even there, she doesn't let up. Eventually, he's cornered with nowhere left to run. He pulls out his knife and threatens Arnie, but Christine forces her way through and crushes him without mercy. The next morning, Arnie tells Dennis about Moochie's death, leaving Dennis utterly baffled. He can't wrap his head around how the car managed to fix itself after being so thoroughly destroyed. Arnie offers no explanation and simply walks away in silence. Soon after, Detective Junkins pays Arnie a visit, assuring him that he's actively hunting down the vandals who wrecked Christine, and that he's also handling the investigation into Moochie's murder. Arnie insists he knows nothing about Moochie's death, but admits he's glad to hear about it, which immediately raises the detective's suspicion. Junkins then reveals that Arnie's own girlfriend testified that the car somehow repaired itself completely despite being smashed to pieces. Arnie quietly leaves without another word. Afterward, Arnie calls Lee to ask her to meet up, but she turns him down flat, which only fuels his growing frustration. Meanwhile, Lee and her friend Dawn are driving around with some drinks in the car when another vehicle starts tailing them. Buddy pulls over to see who's following, but the glare of the headlights makes it impossible to tell. He reverses his car, and the mystery vehicle mirrors the move exactly, revealing itself to be Christine. Furious, Buddy speeds off and pulls into a gas station where his buddy Richie works. He grabs an iron rod, ready to confront whoever's been following him. But Christine comes roaring in at full speed and rams straight into Buddy's car, tearing it apart. Convinced Arnie must be inside, Buddy demands he come out. But Christine slams into his car again, driving it straight into the workshop. Dawn, who was still sitting inside, gets crushed along with the vehicle. Fuel starts leaking from the wreckage and catches fire almost instantly, triggering a massive explosion that engulfs the entire garage. Richie is caught in the blaze and doesn't survive. Buddy manages to flee for his life, but the burning wreck of Christine chases him down regardless, finally crushing him as well before the car itself burns down to ash. Sometime later, Will hears a car pulling into the garage. He's startled to find Christine sitting there, wrapped in smoke, especially since Arnie was supposedly out working on a different vehicle at the time. Grabbing his gun, he goes to investigate who might be inside. The door is scorching hot, so he wraps a cloth around his hand to pry it open, only to find the car completely empty. Confused, he decides to climb inside himself, a decision that will cost him dearly because Christine has no intention of leaving any witnesses behind. The door locks shut from the inside, and moments later, Will is crushed to death against the dashboard. The next morning, Arnie arrives at the garage to find it swarming with police vehicles. He speaks with Detective Junkins and learns that Will's body was discovered inside Christine. Arnie claims he has no idea how it happened, but deep down he knows exactly who's responsible, especially seeing the car once again standing there polished and gleaming as if nothing had ever touched her. Around this time, Dennis is finally released from the hospital. Lee calls him, wanting to meet up, and tells him she's convinced Christine has completely taken over Arnie's mind, driving him to behave in increasingly reckless and disturbing ways. Dennis tells her he doesn't believe Arnie would ever do something so wrong on his own, but if Christine really has seized control of his mind, then the car needs to be destroyed once and for all. Lee heads back home, but just moments later, Arnie pulls up in Christine and asks Dennis to come out for a drive. Dennis reluctantly agrees, and once again, Arnie starts acting strangely, flooring the accelerator and eventually letting go of the steering wheel entirely. Terrified, Dennis shouts that the car is out of control, but Arnie calmly insists that nothing can ever come between him and Christine. His trust in her is absolute. To prove his point, he swerves the car at full speed into the opposite lane, narrowly avoiding a head-on collision with oncoming traffic. Watching his friend teeter on the edge of complete madness, Dennis knows something has to be done. The following day, Dennis leaves a note tucked under Christine's windshield wiper, asking Arnie to meet him at the garage that evening. When evening arrives, Dennis and Lee wait inside the workshop, but Arnie never shows. The two of them climb into a nearby excavator and drive it inside the workshop instead. Their plan is simple. Lee will wait in the office, and once Arnie arrives, she'll lock the gate behind him, giving Dennis the chance to destroy Christine with the bulldozer. Lee heads to the office as planned, unaware that Christine has actually been hiding among the scrap and clutter inside the shop the whole time. The car suddenly flicks on her headlights and lunges toward Lee, who barely manages to save herself by grabbing hold of a tire hanging overhead. Christine refuses to back down and comes at her again, but Dennis swings the excavator's claw in front of Lee just in time to shield her. Christine retreats to the far side of the workshop, while Dennis maneuvers the excavator to the opposite end, and the two machines now stand facing each other. It becomes clear that Christine isn't operating alone this time. Arnie is right there with her, guiding her, completely under the car's spell. In an instant, the headlights flash on, and the car repairs herself within seconds, and at the very same moment, the excavator stalls out. As Dennis scrambles to get it running again, Christine turns and races toward the office, determined to finish Lee off once and for all, smashing through everything in her path. During the violent collision that follows, Arnie is thrown clear through the windshield and lands hard on the ground outside. Lee moves toward him, but Arnie suddenly lunges up to startle her. only for them both to realize a large shard of windshield glass has pierced straight through his body. In his final moments, he reaches out to touch his beloved car one last time before succumbing to his injuries and dying right there in front of Christine. Lee immediately flees the scene, but Christine, seeking revenge, throws herself into reverse and tries to run her down. Lee escapes by the narrowest of margins as the car slams into a support pillar and gets wedged in place. Seizing the opportunity, Dennis gets the excavator running again and drives it straight at Christine, ramming her hard. Still, the car keeps fighting to survive. When Christine makes another attempt to reach Lee, Dennis crushes her from behind with the excavator's claw, weakening the malevolent force inside her. Lee quickly climbs up into the excavator to join Dennis. Meanwhile, Christine begins reactivating and trying to heal herself once more. Determined to end this evil for good, Dennis fires up the bulldozer and drives it straight through Christine, crushing her completely. She struggles to resist right up to the very end. But this time, there's no coming back. She's finally destroyed, and their long, terrifying battle comes to a close. The next day, Dennis and Lee meet Detective Junkins at the junkyard, where they find Christine has been reduced entirely to scrap metal. Satisfied that it's finally over, the three of them turn and walk away. But just as they leave, we catch a glimpse of a small piece of Christine's wreckage twitching on its own, a chilling reminder that this evil car might still be very much alive. So tell us, what's your dream car? Drop your answer in the comments below, and we'll see you in the next video.